start out today with a quote from Peter Drucker. Peter says, entrepreneurs believe that profit is what matters most in business, but profit is secondary. Cash flow is what matters most. I couldn't agree with Peter more on that, and I'm super excited with today's guest to be able to speak with today's guest. We're going to be talking about cash flow and a combination of cash flow and mindset. So two of my favorite topics. With me, I have Rod Cleef. Welcome, Rod.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Tom. Let's have some fun today. And cash flow, it's funny, that happens to be the name of my podcast, Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. And if you allow me to tell my story, we'll talk about how super important cash flow is in a few minutes.
Absolutely. Yeah, maybe, why don't we start there? Maybe if you can just share, you're in Sarasota, Florida, right?
I am. It's a beautiful day in paradise, my friend. And where are you?
I'm in Campbell, California, San Jose area.
Oh, beautiful too. Oh, we love it there. Well, so listen, I immigrated to this country, and I want to go back a ways because it lends itself to what I want to talk about. So I immigrated to this country when I was 6 years old with my mother, Zvancha, my brother, Albert. We ended up in Denver, Colorado. I was born in the Netherlands, in Holland. And this was 1966. And we didn't have much. In fact, I wore hand-me-down clothes from the Goodwill and the Salvation Army all the way through junior high school till I could afford till I got a job. I lied about my age at Burger King, and 14 years old, I'm working at Burger King, and I was able to buy my own clothes. And we ate expired food because that's all we could afford. Powdered milk. My mom thought milk was healthy at the time. And I'm sure you may have listeners that have it harder than I did or had it harder than we did, but I knew I wanted more. And my mom luckily had an incredible work ethic. So she babysat kids so we'd have enough money to eat. And she was a bit of an entrepreneur. She actually used her babysitting money, invested in the stock market, and actually made money. But she bought the house across the street from us when I was 14 with her babysitting money for about $30,000. When I was 17, a couple years later, she told me she'd made $20,000 in her sleep, that it had gone up in value that much. And I'm like, what? Screw college. I'm getting into real estate. So I went and got my real estate broker's license right when I turned 18, which you could do back then with education. I mean, I was a broker. I wasn't just an agent. They got smart. Now you have to have some experience before you can be a broker. But I was a broker, and I was going to be rich in real estate. Well, my first year in real estate, I maybe made about $8,000. Second year, maybe $10,000. But my third year, I made over $100,000, which back in 1981 was a decent chunk of money.
Absolutely.
So what happened between year 2 and 3 for me to 10x my income? Well, so what happened was I was dating a girl, and her dad, I worked with her dad some, and he taught me that 80 to 90% of a person's success in anything is mindset and psychology. It's really not the technical knowledge. If it was just the technical knowledge, there'd be a bunch of wealthy librarians and college professors out there. It's actually doing something with that knowledge and taking action. And, fast forward to today, Tom, I've owned over 2,000 houses that I rented long-term, multiple apartment complexes. And in 2006, my net worth went up $17 million while I slept. A little more than my mom's 20,000, but there's a punchline. But when that happens, I got a big head. I thought I was a real estate god. In fact, I could barely fit my head through a door. And when that happens, God or the universe or whatever you believe will give you a smack. And that was 2008 for me. And I know we talked before we started recording, we have some similarities in our story. Well, in 2008 and 9, I lost $50 million. I lost everything. And I thought I was set for life. And so one of the things I enjoy talking about is the mindset that it took to have 50 million to lose in the first place, and then the mindset it took to get back to the success that I'm blessed to enjoy today. So if you'd like, I'm happy to go a little deeper on that with you.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's great. Mindset, I couldn't agree more, is just such a key factor in being successful in anything we do. And I guess especially now with everything that's going on, would love to talk about mindset and really for people who are caught in the heaviness of the situation of everything going on in the world right now.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because if you're listening to Tom, you're a leader, and right now the world needs leaders. And to show up the way you need to show up. It is so critical that you manage your focus right now, because whatever you focus on is going to grow larger, both positive or negative. So if you're sucked into CNN or ABC or whatever, and you're forgetting that the news is not there to inform us. It's just there to scare the hell out of us and startle us. That's how they sell advertising. And so, I would tell you to stand guard at the door to your mind. So I do every week I do an interview segment on my podcast, and I do a segment called Own Your Power. It's a motivational clip. It's only about 4 or 5 minutes, but it doesn't even matter if you're not interested in multifamily. I highly encourage you to listen to it, because people rave about it. But forget me. Go on YouTube and take in the good stuff, the positive motivational stuff. I tell people, stand guard at the door to your mind, because there's so much negative BS out there right now. I mean, let's not even get me started on the politics, but COVID and all this nonsense that's happening right now. It's so easy to dilute your focus, and focus, really is power. And the more you're able to focus on what you want and have clarity on what you want, the faster it's going to happen in your life. And so again, especially right now, you need to be managing your focus and managing your energy, and recognizing that most people connect through negativity. Yeah, I know that sounds crazy, but let me give you an example. Let's say, Tom, you came up to me and said, "Hey, Rod, how you doing?" I said, "Oh my God, I am amazing. It is so awesome right now. I'm fantastic." You'd step back a couple steps and say, he needs to get back on his meds, right? But if you came up and said, "Rod, how you doing?" I said, "Oh God, man, rough night." In fact, I think I did say that when we started the conversation today. Rough night. I was up till the wee hours of the morning. My back is killing me. You put your arm around me and say, "Oh, brother, I feel you. I get it." Because that's how we connect. Mm-hmm. Right now, you need to be cognizant of that, okay? Because right now, you've got to bring in the positive energy, because there's plenty of negative out there. So that's my response to that.
Yeah, definitely. And connection.
Yes.
Use the word.
No question. And step up. So if you're struggling right now, you might need to innovate or pivot. I will tell you, I was having back-to-back sold-out live events. I've got a podcast. I teach people how to buy apartment buildings. I love what I do. And I was doing back-to-back events.
The podcast, let me just, the lifetime cash flow through multifamily property.
Yes. Podcast. Yeah. Well, actually, through real estate investing is the name. Lifetime cash flow through real estate investing, and I mean, we've been blessed. I'm pushing 8.5 million downloads. It's just and it's because I love it. I mean, I truly. I mean, I think that comes out. And whenever you love something, and by the way, those of you listening, here's a little nugget. If you don't love what it is you're doing, either associate pleasure with it and learn to love it, or for God's sakes, go do something else. Life is too short. This is not a dress rehearsal. So, so there's that. But anyway,
I just want to share too, at the end of the podcast here, it's make sure you stay tuned, because Rod is going to share some really cool stuff about it.
Well, I'll mention it. I'll mention it right now, because it ties into what I'm saying. So I was doing sold out live events, and I was scheduled to have 800 people in Orlando in May. And we know what happened with that. And so, I'm like, what the heck are we going to do? That's how we generate our revenue in our thought leadership business. I have the thought leadership business, and then I've got my apartment buying business. We bought 1,000 doors last year with our students. We just closed on 124 yesterday, and 280 next week are coming, all with our students. But I didn't know what I was going to do because I couldn't do my live events. So we pivoted, and I threw up a website in about 2 days. It's called multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com. The operative word is virtual. And you can see me in my backyard recording the video on my phone. And we had 900 people pay to watch that. And we had our highest grossing event because I pivoted. And by the way, on that note, I've got another one coming up July 25th and 26th, 2 days of training about this business, and I'm not selling anything. So and I'll give your listeners a code where they can come for $97. In fact, let me just say it right now. It's Rod Friend. So if you go to that website and put in Rod Friend, you can come for under $100. I'm not selling anything. It is like a duh. Okay. It's a no-brainer if you have any interest in this business, even if you're just interested in investing passively, because I don't know about you, Tom, but I think I read on your website that you take educating your investors very seriously. Yes. Yeah. And so do I. But the point is, guys, if you're, or ladies, people, if you're interested in investing passively, you should know what the heck it is you're investing in. Don't give your hard-earned money to someone unless you understand it. So come spend a couple days with me. And again, it's $97. I'm not going to get, there's no sell. So it's a no-brainer. I go through every aspect of the business. But back to our conversation. Go ahead.
That was Rod Friend, Friend.
Yeah, one word, Rod Friend. And if you're listening to this in your car, text the word Rod Live to 41411, and we'll give you that website address and stuff. But
and we'll
Rod Live is one word.
Show notes as well. So.
Yeah, okay, great. But some people are in their cars and they forget stuff. So if you text Rod Live, we'll get you that email and just remember. I mean, we'll give you that website address. Just remember Rod Friend to get $50 off, and it's $97, and it's like a no-brainer. But anyway, and just so you know, I mean, you guys, those of you on iTunes can't see this, but Tom can. Here's the manual. It's literally, I don't know, 180 pages long. And these are the other books that you get, resources that I've written about every aspect of this business. I mean, literally, there's like 6 inches of books here that you get. I'm about massively over delivering. But anyway, so back to mindset. So one of the things I do at my live events and now at my live stream event is we do a goal setting workshop kind of on steroids. And this is how I was able to have 50 million to lose and how I was able to recover from that back to the success that I'm blessed to have today is by redirecting my focus, by reassociating with my goals. So if you give me 5 minutes, I could explain that process. I mean, I'd spend an hour and a half on it at my live event. And by the way, I actually also did it on my Rod Khleif official Facebook page on January 1st of this year. On New Year's Day, I did this process for an hour and 20 minutes with music. And I also give you a guide you can download for free to follow along this goal setting process on my Facebook page. And of course you get it at my event. I was just looking I could show you the cover of it, but here it is. Yeah. So you get this as well if you join me for that goal setting workshop. But let me give you the highlights if you can't or don't want to make either one of them, because the process is so freaking powerful. So is that okay if I outline it real quick? Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. I was going to say that mindset is so important, but what's a takeaway that we can give our listeners?
Here it is right here. Here it is. If you have the ability to take some notes, please do. And I can tell you this process is how I've accomplished everything I've accomplished. And I'm not going to, there are people who have done a lot more than I have, but this has really worked for me. So what I would suggest you do is you pick an hour when you're uninterrupted. You don't do it right after a meal. You need high energy. You make sure you're well hydrated. As I take a drink of water, and you sit down and you write down everything you could ever possibly want in life. Start with the stuff. Houses, cars, boats, jet skis, planes, jewelry, clothing, whatever it is, all the stuff, write it down. There's nothing wrong with stuff. But here's the key. Take the lid off your brain. Imagine if you write it down, you're going to get it, which is not outside the realm of reality, because there's truly nothing you cannot do, be, or have. Okay. So don't limit yourself at all. If you want a jet or a yacht or a private island, write it down. And because by simply writing these things down, it triggers something in your brain called your reticular activating system. It's what describes this subconscious filter that subconsciously filters out and points you in the direction of what your brain thinks you are interested in. It all happens subconsciously. And the greatest example is when you first buy a car. You never really notice them. You buy the car, they're everywhere. And that's your reticular activating system at work. And so the same thing applies to your goals. So write down everything you can think of. Also write down what you want to do in your lifetime. Maybe you want to write a book or learn a skill. If it's multifamily, then please come spend a couple days with me. By the way, that's on July 25th and 26th. Tom's not sure if he can get this out by then. If not, I'll do another one in about 3 or 4 months. So just, go to the website and, after that, and then you'll be able to see what my next one is. But anyway, so write down what you want to do as well. Like, for example, I jumped out of a perfectly good airplane about 8 months ago. I will never freaking do it again, but I did it. Okay. And it's off the list and it's done. So, but write down what you want to do. Maybe there's places you want to visit. I've got a travel vision board right here behind me that I look at about the places that I love, that I've been to, and places I haven't been to, I want to go to. So write that down. Also write down what you want to learn in this lifetime. Maybe you want to learn a foreign language or again, a skill set, Write down who you want to help. I bought my parents a house when my dad was alive here in Florida on a canal with a boat and car and took them on cruises. Who do you want to do something for? Write that down, because we'll do more for others than we'll ever do for ourselves. So use that. And then, maybe you want to do something bigger than that, but write that down. So it's everything you want to do, be or have. Then once you're done, you can't think. And by the way, if you're analytical, you're probably analytical if you're listening to Tom here, and don't stop and analyze it. Just don't let the pen leave the paper. Keep writing until you can't think of another thing. Keep that energy high. Once you're done, you can't think of another thing. There's just a couple more steps. You have to put a time limit on each goal. It must be measurable. So put how many years you anticipate it's going to take you to achieve that goal. And again, don't overthink it. Just throw a number down there, 1, 3, even 5, 10, or 20. Recognizing that as human beings, we will overestimate what we can do in a year and massively underestimate what we can do in a decade or 20 years. I'll give you an example. When I was poor, living in Denver, I was 18. I knew I wanted to live on the beach, and I would visualize the palm trees and the sand and the surf and of course the bikinis. And I knew I wanted to live on the beach. And so, and that was unthinkable when I was 18 that could actually happen. I ended up building this $8 million mansion on the beach. I have the beach on one side and my boathouses on the back side. It was a Gulf to Bay. It was like a slice through an island. Again, it was unthinkable when I was 18. But so don't limit yourself, my friends. Just write it down if you have any inclination towards it, because you can do it. Okay. And please realize that's not me bragging. That's me just hoping to inspire you by what's possible. So once you've got a time limit on each goal, pick your number one goal. I mean, that goal, when you get it, you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. That goal, put that on a separate sheet of paper. Also pick your top 3 1-year goals, put them on a separate sheet of paper. And if you do it with me, you'll have the guide to put it in. It's all laid out, but you can do it yourself too. Leave some room in between these 4 goals, your number 1 goal and your top 3 goals. Because the next step is the most important. The goals are important. They will drive you and they'll push you, but they're not nearly as important as knowing exactly why they're an absolute must to achieve. The why is the driver. The why is what'll get you up early, keep you up late, do whatever you have to do to achieve whatever measure of success that you want in your life. Okay, the why is the fuel. Maybe you're comfortable. And the comfort zone's a warm place, but nothing freaking grows there. Okay. So you got to get out of comfort, and the why will do that. So write down why it's a must. You might say things like, and use emotionally charged words. Words are very powerful. Words like amazing and beautiful and incredible. You want words that juice you. You might say, so I can show my children what massive success looks like, or I can show my spouse what it means to be successful, so we can have freedom to do whatever we want, whenever we want, go wherever we want, bring whoever we want, whatever it is for you. Use that fuel to write that down. And once you've got a positive reason why it's a must, you got to take it one little step further. You got to put some pain in there. Okay. And I mean, make it painful, because we will do more as human beings to avoid pain than gain pleasure. And again, you want to use this. And so you might put, if you don't achieve the goal, so I don't feel like a failure. So I don't fail my kids. So I don't fail my wife, my husband, again, make it, so I don't live a life of regret, and use that potential for pain to drive you. There was a nurse in Australia named Bronnie Ware. She was a hospice nurse. So she counseled patients at the end of their lives. And she asked them a question. And Tom, the question was, do you have any regrets? And she wrote a book about it. It's called The 5 Regrets of Dying. Number 1 regret was not living the life I could have lived, living someone else's life, not doing what I would know I was capable of. Guys, we don't want that, okay? If you're afraid of failure, I'm going to tell you, fear regret much more than you fear failure. Yeah. Fear being in the same place a year from now that you are right now because you didn't take action. Okay, that's what I would fear. So you've got the positive, negative reasons why. The last thing I will tell you is you must get pictures of your goals. You've got to have ways to visualize your goals. And I'll give you some great examples. If you Google Jim Carrey, the actor, Google Jim Carrey check, you will see he wrote himself a check for $10 million when he was flat broke. And that's how much money he made. And he used to go by the Hollywood sign and he'd look at it, visualize cashing it. That's how much money he made for Demi Lovato. And I love this recent example. I'm sorry, that's how much money he made for Dumb and Dumber. My next example is Demi Lovato. She when she was nothing 10 years ago, I mean, not public, not nothing. She had no fame.
Mm-hmm.
She put a post on it on social media that said she was going to sing in the Super Bowl. Go watch the last Super Bowl. She sang in that Super Bowl. So guys, this stuff works. I'll give you just a couple of my personal examples. When I was 18, I told you I was going to get rich selling other people real estate. And so I got this bone ugly 4-door car because I figured it was a Ford Granada. I figured you had to have a 4-door car to show houses, right? And so I had a bench seat in the front. It was the ugliest piece of you-know-what. and I worked with a guy that had a Corvette, and he let me drive it. And I will tell you, I thought that was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen or done. So I got a picture out of a magazine. They hadn't even thought of the internet yet. A picture out of a magazine, and I put it on the visor of that bone ugly Granada. So every time I sat in that Granada, that picture of that Corvette was right there in front of me. Within a year, I had one. Now, I'll give you a couple more quick examples, then I'll land the plane here. But please let me say this again. I'm not bragging with these examples. This is just me hoping to inspire you. So the next that was the time when I had that Corvette. There was a TV show called Magnum PI, and it was set in Hawaii. The actor's name was Tom Selleck, and it was a detective movie. He drove this Ferrari 308, and I thought that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen. And so I got a picture of that actual car and put it on the visor of my Corvette. Within a year or two, I had a Maserati. It looked just like it. Last example. I always wanted a Lamborghini. Okay, growing up, I'd have pictures of the Lamborghini Countach with the gold wing doors and the bikinis and all in my bedroom, all that stuff. And what's crazy is my son, when he was 9 years old, collected models of exotic cars. He had about 30 or 40 of them, and he had a model of the exact same color and style Lamborghini that I ended up getting. But so, guys, this stuff works. In fact, let me show you something. Do you put these on YouTube or just on iTunes?
Yeah,
you put them on YouTube? Okay. Well, let me show you something. This is my planner. Okay. It's on today. Today's July 16th. We're having this, and it's a light day because I'm flying out to an asset we have in Louisiana tonight. But in the back of this thing are pictures that I have transferred to different books like this because I've had these pictures for 20 years in the back of my planner. Now, the first pictures are my gratitude pictures. They're pictures of my children when they were very young because everything starts from a place of gratitude, okay? It's foundational. It's how you achieve anything you want in life through gratitude. But then I've got pictures of the things that I wanted. Remember I talked about that house on the beach? This top picture looks just like the view there because I had 10-foot high glass like this. I had travertine floors like this. I mean, it's uncanny how much it looked like this. And this is before I ever built it. Now you want to see something really cool, Tom? You're the only one that can see this unless you watch this on YouTube. But look at see the bottom pictures there? You can kind of see the white walls. There are actually two different properties. See the white walls?
Yes.
The picture behind me is my compound where I live now, okay? See the white wall?
Yes.
Is that insane? It's the same freaking wall. And it's kind of funny. I live in a compound now. I have 6 buildings. I've got a giant I lost that house on the beach and all the craziness, that happened. And I have right now I live in a compound. I have 6 buildings. I have a giant main house, a 2-bedroom guest house. I've got a media building with a now new video studio that I built to do the live streams because I had to, exercise facility. I mean, it's just spectacular. It's like a park you can see behind me here, and it's right on the bay. And because God's got a sense of humor, I can see my old house across the bay, right out the backyard there. It's right there. Anyway, but back to my pictures for a minute. And then I've got, stuff like these watches. I've got a few $100,000 worth of watches, the Lamborghini before I ever got it, Rolls, Bentley, all this stuff that I got because I had pictures. So those of you analytical ones that are going, oh, okay, please get on with the real estate stuff. Big mistake because this is more important. I'm just telling you right now. Anyway,
well, and what I'm hearing is, number one, get clarity on what it is you want. Number two,
very, very clear. The more crystal clear. In fact, that's why let me show you something. That's why I have these vision boards behind me. So actually, there's the one I want.
I talked about that exact same thing in my book as well.
There's the travel vision board that I was talking about. So because I'm not the greatest visualizer, I have these vision boards. And when I do this stuff, I look at the pictures to get real clear. So anyway.
And so clarity, measurable, and visualize. So clarity on what you want, measurable as to what it is and how you're going to get there.
Yeah. For example, let me say this. If you say I'm going to lose some weight, is it going to happen? No. I'm going to lose 20 pounds by January 1st and feel freaking great about it. That's measurable.
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. That's great. Great. Well, this has been really exciting, and definitely going to do my best to get this out in front of our listeners so that.
Thank you. I'd love it if you guys can join me for the event, and if not, I'll do it again in 3 or 4 months. But It's July 25th and 26th if you can make it. And again, multifamilyvirtualbootcamp.com or text Rod Live to 41411 and then use the code RODFRIEND to get it for $97. And I promise you'll be glad you came. Before we started recording, I told Tom, I've got a Facebook group with 35,000 people in it. And there are hundreds of unsolicited testimonials from that first live stream event with 900 people. Literally, there's probably 300 of them, people raving about the event. Because I love it, and I think that comes out. And they see the passion and it was all me. It was a one-man show. It was actually much harder than a live event, believe it or not, because usually I'm getting love and clapping and smiles and energy from the audience. And I didn't have any of that. I'm my poker face videographer and whatnot. But
I bet it was great. You also have a book, How to Create Lifetime Cash Flow Through Multifamily Properties.
Yeah, I do. I gave away 20,000 copies of that thing when I first started the podcast. I never planned to sell anything. I used to tell people early on the podcast, I'll never sell you anything because I truly never intended to. Then I hit 1 million downloads. I'm like, hey, knucklehead, you probably better do something with this. Now I've got 400 or 500 students and programs and all kinds of stuff. But yeah, I gave 20,000 copies of that book away. And then again, my team's like, hey, knucklehead, we should probably put this on Amazon now and make some money. Wow. So there you go.
Very cool. Very cool. And so what bit of advice would you give? I know we've talked a lot about the visualizing and the goals and whatnot. Any last bit of advice that you would give listeners before we sign off for today?
Sure. I mean, we can go. I mean, I don't know how your time limit, if you keep this at like 20, 30 minutes, if you'd like to go, I'm good for another 10, 15 minutes. So we can talk about any topic you like. But when I ask the question, when I've got an operator on my podcast that's got a few thousand doors, I love to ask the question, what would you tell your 20-year-old self, knowing what you know now? And I almost always get the same answer: go bigger, faster. So there's some good advice because I hear it time and time again from super successful operators. But I would just tell you, and we talked about it, get clear on what you want so that it gives you the momentum to take action, because so many people, especially analytical people, okay, and analytical people have to check off every single freaking box, and they're my most successful students. But they're the hardest to get to actually do something, to get it to take action, because they have to check off every box. So if that is you, please, for God's sakes, find the juice to take action and make it happen for yourself, so there's no regret, because there's so much opportunity. And when I tell you that there is opportunity coming, you please believe me, because I see 08 and 09 all over again happening from this COVID thing. You cannot have 46 million people on unemployment. I mean, I was just been reading in Forbes and Business Week about all the businesses that are in big trouble. And which means unemployment, which means real estate opportunity. And yes, it's going to be very sad and it's horrible that it's happening. It's going to be really bad for a lot of people, and there will be incredible opportunity. So I've been using the catchphrase compassionate capitalism, or I heard this from Jay Abraham, who's a marketer, ethical opportunism. Okay. Yeah. So we keep our integrity, but there's a tremendous amount of opportunity coming. There are going to be a ton of distressed assets that are going to hit the market sometime in the next year or two.
And multifamily is, that's never good. I mean, that's how there's always going to be a huge need for that. One of the things that I saw that you had, I don't remember exactly how you said it, but you had been very successful in single family homes, and now you don't care. You don't love single family anymore.
I will never buy another single family home unless I'm living in it, or it's on the beach and I might Airbnb it or something, but that would be the only, and I probably wouldn't even do that. It's too much brain damage. But no, see, the thing of it is, when I lost everything in 2008, I had 800 houses and I had multiple apartment complexes. And let me explain why I lost everything, because it's kind of interesting. I was only, by the way, I only owed 30 cents on the dollar. I was at a 30% loan to value, and I still crashed and burned. So let me explain what happened. First of all, it's about cash flow. Florida has no state income tax, so the property taxes are higher here. Impacts cash flow. I had a lot of properties in flood zones along the coast. I was all along the Gulf Coast of Mexico. I was 2 hours one way and 2 hours the other way, and everywhere in between, I had properties. Okay, and you'll hear why that's a big deal in a minute. But a lot of properties in wind and flood zones, so higher insurance impacts cash flow. But here's what killed me. a lot of these properties were C-class properties, so they always have more maintenance. Okay, they're just hard. The people are harder on them. And so if I had a maintenance issue at one of my apartment complexes, everything's the same. HVAC parts are the same, plumbing parts, appliance parts, door locks, everything's the same. So we can stockpile parts, and I can send a maintenance guy and he can be in and out in an hour. Well, if I had to send someone to one of my houses an hour and a half away, they'd have to get there, see what was wrong, go find a Home Depot or a Lowe's where we have an account, and come back and get started. And if invariably you get into something, you need something else. I don't know if you've ever fixed anything, but I know me, I end up going back and forth because I'm like, oh crap, I forgot that. And that happens with maintenance guys as well. And what takes an hour at one of my apartment complexes took all day at one of my 800 houses. And so that was a killer. But then the final coup de grace, as it were, was most of my tenant demographic was in construction. A lot of jobbers, painters, plumbers, electricians, drywallers, roofers. And that fell off a cliff in 2008 and 9. And so they didn't have work. And so it was just like the perfect storm. And then what's really interesting is my portfolio actually went underwater. I was actually underwater. So it actually fell more than 70%. Isn't that crazy? Yeah. And so I was it. I was done. And so now, when we buy apartment complexes, we take a very hard look at the viability of the employment industries around that asset. Is there a lot of retail, for example, which we know is going to be in big trouble. I've got friends that have strip centers, and the number I'm hearing from every one of them, I've got a bunch of friends, is 75% of their tenants are asking for rent abatement right now. I mean, how do you survive that? But luckily that doesn't happen in multifamily. That's what's interesting is my multifamily did just fine through that crash. I only pulled back maybe 11%, which was the national average, but it was the houses that pulled me down. And if I hadn't cross-collateralized packages of 50 to 100 houses with my apartment complexes to save a few basis points on the interest rate, in my brilliance, I'd still have those apartment complexes, And so anyway, that's why I started the podcast was to tell people that message. If you're going to buy and hold, for God's sakes, do multifamily, don't do single family. And then, of course, because I hate asking for money, so I thought it'd be a great way to ask for money for my deals. And of course, if I mention a deal, my dance card gets filled overnight.
Well, and so that's my next question. If someone is interested in working with you or
Sure. If you're a passive investor, like you, I spend a lot of time educating my investors, and we are extremely conservative based on what's happened to me. Like these two assets, we just closed on a beautiful 124 unit northeast of Atlanta in the fastest growing area in Georgia. Yesterday, beautiful asset, and we can be 65% occupied there and still break even. We're closing on an asset in Cincinnati, 280 doors, same thing. I think it's 65%. That's our stress test. So we won't buy it unless we can cash flow at 65% occupied, economically occupied. And so, and then we put tons of reserves in the bank. Cincinnati asset, we've got $1 million in the bank, operating reserve just in case, just a what hit the fan reserve. That doesn't count our CapEx money to fix it up, and we still have fantastic returns. I mean, we do extremely well, because I have a lot of students. I've got hundreds of students that funnel us deals, and out of the 1,000 doors we bought last year, and these, I don't know, what is it, 400 or 500 doors. We've got students involved in all of them. And so, we're kind of in the catbird seat, as it were, in that regard. And so we really get a lot of great deals.
So your event on July 25th, 26th, if someone is interested.
By the way, hold on one second. So if someone is interested in talking to us about investing with us, text the word partner to 41411, and then you'll get on mine or Robert's calendars, and we can talk about to see if our, if our wants and needs are aligned. So partner to 41411 for that. So back to my event again.
Yeah. So that was my question. Was there are some people who want to get into real estate and really want to be very active and learn the ropes, learn how to do it, learn how to buy their own apartment buildings. Mm-hmm. There are other people who would rather team up with someone who's able to help facilitate.
Sure, an operator. Yeah, passively.
And from what I understand, your event it'll educate both.
It'll educate both camps. And like I said, even if you're not going to actively invest, you need to. When an operator presents a deal to you for you to invest in, you need to know what the heck you're looking at. You need to know what you should look at to make sure to protect yourself. And one of the things you get at my event is, hang on, I'm really glad you said that. One of the things you'll get at my event is this book that I wrote with a bunch of questions questions to ask a general partner in a syndication before you invest. Okay, do you think that'd be useful? I mean, it's every possible thing you should ask so that you don't overlook anything. Because I'm going to tell you, Tom, I don't know about you. These last few years, I've been in best and final, like the last offer stage of a deal, and I see someone come in and buy that place, and I am scratching my head thinking, what are you thinking? You are so overpaying. And so, there've been skinny deals done, and I know we're going to see a bunch of those deals come back. And the investors in those are going to be in trouble. And so, again, protect yourself. In multifamily is one of the most secure investments you can make if the operator knows what they're doing. They're conservative, they stress test. But these are the kinds of questions that are in that booklet that you'll get at my event. So, yeah. Great.
Sweet. Well, this has been really.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun, Tom. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity, and I actually probably should get going here as well now because I'm running out of time now.
So I'm going to give you a chance again to one last bit of advice for our listeners. If you were to
just do it. Like Nike says, just do it. Whatever it is you want to do, make sure it's something you enjoy. Take massive action, and watch your life transform. When you push through the fear, it actually mitigates the fear. It's counterintuitive. If you're fearful and you take action, it mitigates it. Where if you don't take action, it expands the fear. So take action.
Excellent. Thank you, Rod.
Thank you, Tom. It's a pleasure.